Okay, so let's try to recreate this label. So here I just added an airspace and I have added some fields. You can call them however you want. The important thing is that you have the information, and if you need to concatenate or join more fields, you're going to be able to do that afterwards. So let's see. To create a label, we will need first to enable or show the labels. By default, it's going to take whatever we have. Then you can click on the brush here, and if you go to the label settings, you're going to notice that whatever you choose here is what's going to be shown on the chart. Okay, but we want to create a little bit of a more complex label, so we need to recreate this. So let's see. In order to do that, you're going to need to go to this part here at the end where it says kind of calculate or calculator. You're going to have something like this. And here we're going to have like a preview of what is being created. So here on the center, we can go to where it says fields and values. So it's going to have the same fields and values as your layer. And from there, you can select like this. So I want to have my name and I want to concatenate with the, in this case, in this order: name, upper limit, lower limit, and frequency. Name, so I have a field called upper limit, and then I want to concatenate with a lower limit, and then I want to concatenate with the frequency. Okay, so everything is there, but we want to have like that break in between that. So we could do this by, after these two vertical lines, we can add this symbol, which means new line, but you notice that the expression is not valid anymore. So in that case, you need to also add that you want to concatenate that part. That is going to create the break between the name and the upper limits, kind of using escape. So I'm just going to copy and paste it in all of them. And now I have my label looking like that. I can click OK. I can go here and maybe change the size to a 12. And let's use the same blue that maybe we need to use on this. Okay. Now the class airspace is located on a little box on the side. So there's several ways that we can do that. Let's see what works out. Okay. So now we have this, but we don't have the line that divides the flight level. So I'm just going to lock it here so I can zoom in. The important thing is that when we work with this, we know at what scale we're going to be printing the map. So we need to lock the label at that scale. So let's say it's 250,000. I'm going to lock it in because that's how it's going to look when I print it. Okay. This is kind of the trick of all of this labeling. So here in QGIS, you also have the options to use HTML in order to do some formatting. And we're going to leverage that, but now we lose the breaks. We need to go here on our expression builder. And instead of now using the /n, because this is HTML and the /n is Python, we need to use an HTML tag. And in this case, we can use P for paragraph. I think we can use BR for break. Okay, has to be like this. And we're going to replace the line breaks with the HTML option. Click OK, and let's try it out. Okay, so now we have again the label that we wanted. If we go back to this label, it has a bold at the top. So again, we can open up the expression builder here and we can say, I'm going to copy this one here, but we don't want to have a break. And you also need to concatenate. In this case, I want to use what? Bold. So I'm going to use the keyword or the tag actually, which is B for bold. But I don't want all of the label to be bold. In that case, I am going to open up again another bold tag here and close my tag. In HTML and CSS, you open and close tags to tell the computer where you want things to be. So the preview looks okay. Let's see if QGIS is able to render here on the map. It kind of looks okay, but it's messing up a few things. Maybe we need to change the tags rather than having a BR. Maybe we need to use a tag that is a division like P. And let's see if this fixes our label. Okay, so now we have a bold TMA, La Mesa, and we have our rest of the text that is not bold. So that is good, okay? So the next step is probably we want to add this line in the middle to separate the lower and the upper limits. This one is a little bit catchy because in this case, this line needs to go from this point to this point. And if I recall correctly, you can do underlines, so it won't have the exact same feeling, but it will give you the idea. Okay. But let's see. Let's try it out. Maybe it works out. So we're going to go here and change this part. In this case, the lower limit. This one, we need to include overline. So we can go and search on internet about this. And it tells me that I need to add something like this. Okay. And then I need to close my span. So I'm going to close it here. So let's try it out. So this, it creates a span. Text decoration is an overline. So it's going to be on top. You can see it kind of gives us a preview render and the lower limit. So let's see how this looks. Well, not bad. Not bad at all. This almost looks exactly how we would want it to look. Interesting. Okay, so this is what we have at the moment, and I think probably the easiest way to do this box without altering whatever we have at the bottom would be to create a line. Okay, but let's say we want to use the box, and in this case we can go to this part here which says draw background, and it's going to create our box as a rectangle, and then we can choose how our rectangle looks. We're going to change the, again, you go to rectangle, you choose draw background, rectangle, you're going to choose whatever you have. If you don't have one, you can create it. Okay, so let me just see what the defaults are here. So you can select, for example, this outline black, and let's change it up. It's a little bit too wide, so maybe 0.5. The color, maybe you want to match the one of our labels, so we can just pick it up like this. Now the buffer, the size is, you see, if you increase this buffer, it's going to make it wider. And here maybe you want negative. Why you want the negative? Because you want it to go over your text. Okay, so this kind of looks like this, but we have to add some sort of way for this to not go over the text. Okay, so probably the easiest way to do this is just to add a buffer. You add a buffer. You see this buffer, you can put it here. We can increase the buffer size. So maybe something like this. It's quite big. But it's white. Okay, so it looks okay, I guess. But if you really want kind of to match it up, you could say the color you want to match whatever is the most used color at the background. So let me change maybe the background to add like Car2DB, and maybe I'm going to add something like this. Okay, and maybe I can change the color and just pick from the screen this one. And you can notice that this kind of matches the background. Kind of looks okay, I guess. but I need to increase my buffer on my X to make it a little bit bigger. And all of these parameters, we can also adjust them dynamically. We could calculate what's the length of our characters in order to make it a little bit larger or not. Okay, so now what we're missing is to add the class of airspace here. Okay, cool. So we can do that in a single label, or we could probably just copy and paste this and create another label and manage it. It all depends on how you want to do it. So kind of the simple solution, which be just to duplicate this layer. Remember that in QGIS, when you are duplicating the layer, you're not really creating a separate layers just for display. So let's call this class label. And in this case, the class label, probably you don't need a symbology, right? So no symbol. And the label here, you just need the class of airspace that is overlapping. And let's allow the overlap. Okay, so to allow the overlap, I need to go to this one here and allow overlaps without penalty. So now if I click this one, it's going to be on top. Okay. So for this one, if we go to the chart, you see it's a box with a whiteout bottom. So again, we go to background, but in this case, the background, we eliminate the negative buffer and we can say it's 0, maybe 2. This is too big. Maybe like that. Okay, we don't need to have a buffer because actually this text is going to be what? White. And our background, I need to go here to change my rectangle. And let's see, background symbol. It's created like a line. So I need to add my simple fill like this and pick my color. Again, it's the same color that I want to use, and I don't need the outline, so no line. Okay, so let's see how this is looking. Kind of okay. Probably change a little bit the width, the size of this. Maybe an X, maybe 1, and maybe here 1.5, or maybe also 1. So now I have this label. And here's kind of the thing. We can apply an offset to this, but in this case we want the offset to be to the whole label. Okay, so if we go here to the spacing, letters, stretch, etc., let's see, alignment, left, center. Okay, we need to go to this tab that has like the arrows, and by default it says around center. We're going to change it to offset from center, and now here I can move this a distance. And again, this distance can be dynamic, or I can do it manually on my chart. Probably something like that. Okay. So the thing is, what happens? If I do it like this, then I would need to take care into how I move my labels. So here you can move your labels by clicking this, and if I move this label, you need to add a primary key. And let's say I want to put my label here, then this one doesn't move automatically, right? In this case, you have two options. You can either move it manually or you can create a single label. So I'm just going to move it as a, manually. Put it here and adjust it because probably this is going to be a lot quicker and easier to do. Okay. There are ways in which this can be done manually, but I think this gives you very good. Sorry, there are ways that this can be done automatically, But I think that this gives you a pretty good idea on how you can recreate this label by having here in QGIS.